Good evening everyone, my name is Matthias and welcome back to this channel. I hope everyone's doing okay.
And my name is William. Today we're going to discuss if The Bluest Eye is the bluest book we have ever read.
Of course, but before we begin, here's a quick portrayal of how the pandemic is advancing. First off, as dense as it is, scientists have already started working on a cure for the disease. Meanwhile, the virus has abruptly set foot on the American continent.
That's right. Argentina has now entered in a state of quarantine, and that's pretty much why we couldn't make it into the studio. How about we begin now?
Sure, for those who didn't know, The Bluest Eye is a book written by Toni Morrison in 1970, which is focused on Pecola Breedlove's life and how the events in her life shaped her into a later grown woman almost completely destroyed by violence.
The Breedlove's family was part of the black community in America during the first part of the 20th century. Those years were difficult for the community, as little rights were defending them for discrimination they suffered. Only in 1964 was the Civil Rights Act sanctioned, banning all discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in several practices. Unfortunately, the didn't occurred before that year, so the Breedlove family didn't have those benefits and instead living with inequality of rights.
On the other hand, rape was another topic mentioned in the novel. Pecola had to tolerate it until she got pregnant. It's worth mentioning that she was only a child when she got pregnant. In our times, a situation like this would be unacceptable and will have repercussions throughout the media. But the book society decided to turn their backs on Pecola because they felt ashamed of having a member of the community who lived through that instead of helping her. The reason is related to the stigma around the black community because white people believed that violence and sexual assaults were natural in the life of people belonging to this community, but this is not true, of course. However, this occurrence affirms the opposite. Therefore, it can be inferred that the black community tries to have an equality of rights, and the way for doing that is taking care of their manners and appearance. Sorry.
This is a great opportunity to remember to be with trustworthy people in order to lessen the negative effects and be helped in these situations. Regarding this, Claudia and Frida, two Afro-American kids of Piccola, read and helped her the most that they could, but they couldn't do more due to the fact that they were childs, and therefore they didn't have as much authority as adults have. Also, these three girls have competition with another three women, China, Poland, and Miss Mary. They worked as local prostitutes and living above the Breedlove family. One important fact is that they were the only ones of the black community who treated Piccola kindly, when everyone didn't treat her like that.
Stereotypes also play a big role in the protagonist's life. She's continually reminded that she's ugly, especially by her classmates, her family, and Marine, a white-skinned girl who befriends her but eventually teases her. Hence, she desires to have blue eyes. She even goes to stop her church, but he knows that her wish is impossible, so he makes her believe that her wish is made. Spoiler alert! Even at the end of the novel, she still believes that she has blue eyes because, well, she went crazy.
Her family is near a healthy environment for Piccola. It is clear that her parents have problems with each other. She is used to listen to them yelling and fighting every night. Moreover, her dad isn't present and her mother continuously degrades her by not demonstrating any type of affection and by telling her she's ugly.
These are examples of awful experiences the protagonist had to deal with. For instance, we don't recommend people sensitive to these topics to read this book, as there are plenty of them throughout it.
Circling back to the question, is The Bluest Eye the bluest book we have ever read? In my opinion, I don't think so. Although the involved themes are one of the bluest you can ever read. Matthias, what's your opinion?
To be quite honest, it made me cry. I will definitely say that It was the saddest book I ever read. I had little to no experience relating to those topics, so reading them in a detailed way shocked me quite a lot.
Which part do you consider the saddest?
Actually, I do not believe it was a part, but rather the ending. I disliked that Pecola ended up being seen as the scapegoat for the black community. Her ugliness made others happy because no one was as ugly as her. Personally, I hate it when people don't have empathy for others more than themselves. You know what I mean. And I think that it's necessary that people start to take care of Pecola more instead of isolating her from society.
I see what you're saying, but I think that the black community was frightened at the white community may see them after the situation that they decided to keep her distant from them, in order to make them believe there was no relation anymore between Pecola and the black community.
Now that you're saying that, I feel the same way about it. I believe that's true for the majority of the population. The fact that of being sensitive while reading the book, these topics tend to be taboo in our society, so it doesn't surprise me the impact it had on people, actually.
One way of changing how taboo topics are seen is by encouraging writers to introduce all of these themes to the population more often, from the most common to the most extraordinary ones. This has multiple benefits.
One of them is to allow the average person to expand their knowledge, making them a more cultured man. This person is going to be able to share and discuss different topics with diverse types of people in the society and might introduce their close ones to a new understanding of how the world actually works.
Only can help many people out because they have a larger comprehension of many problems that the world has nowadays, and have more tools than the average person to help those people to get out of the problems, or at least to reduce its discomfort.
Obviously, the more people having these tools, the better.
However, I do think there are some disadvantages of making taboo topics openly known to society. One of them is to expose them to strong experiences without their expressing consent.
I agree. Making that could traumatize them even more to those subjects, and therefore they may not want to know anything about that for a very long time.
Absolutely. You have to be careful when introducing new information to other humans.
Having all this in mind, we can think about the relativity of this book as being the bluest one that anyone has ever read. Take for example, only 5% of the people who read the novel rated it 5 stars.
What may have been motivating them to do that?
Participants indicated that they liked the narration of the story. Imagine that they have never experienced living in that period, so reading it is an awesome way to understand those living conditions. They might have felt it as if they were in there, actually.
Are you saying that those people didn't feel the negative impact of the story, as the majority of people did?
No, they're still humans, by the way, but they prioritize the other aspects of the novel as the ones mentioned before.
In conclusion, this novel has teaches about many subjects relating to the black community and the racism present during the last century. Some of them are discrimination, sexual assault, the importance of trustworthy people in our lives, stereotypes, and a toxic home.
And afterwards, we explore the diverse opinions which may exist about the principal quest of this video. If The Bluest Eye is the saddest book you have ever read,
We conclude that it depends on each person. Some of them believe that was the bluest book they have ever read, but for others it was one of the greatest.
interactive time. Tell us in the comments or in social media using the hashtag #TheBluestEye your opinion on this book. We will be looking forward to seeing and interacting with you.
Finally, If you consider yourself brave enough to read the whole novel, we recommend you to do so.
And feel free, of course, of encourage other people who may like having these benefits or even adding another novel to their reading list.
And that's all for today. We hope you enjoyed and took advantage of it as much as you could. See you next weekend!